When it rains, it pours, as they say. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday. What the heck day is this? October 24th, 2021. Sorry for the late start. There was actually a lot of research that I dove into trying to get prepared for this episode. There was a lot more going on than I had even realized. But here we are, and my microphone tried to play a trick on me, but I was on top of it. So take that, microphone. So yeah, let's jump into it. Let's take a look at the last week. Last Thursday, South Korea test launched their KSLV-2 rocket, also called Nuri. It was intended for a 700-kilometer sun-synchronous orbit, and it did reach that target apogee, but the third stage shut down about 46 seconds earlier than planned, and the payload didn't achieve orbital speed. KSLV-2's 3 stages all use LOX with jet fuel, the same fuel you'd find in a commercial airliner, rather than RP-1, which is rocket-grade kerosene. Stages 1 and 2 use Jet A, and Stage 3 uses Jet A1. Don't ask me what the distinction is. I am not a fuel chemist. But so that test launch was mostly successful, but it didn't quite reach orbit. Let's check out the launch.
4, 3, 2, 1.
오, 누리호가 날아오르고 있습니다. 와, 와, 너무 멋있지 않습니까?
와,
저 불꽃 보이시나요?
네, 굉음이 여기까지
네,
들리는데요?
진동도 느껴지시나요? 저는 정말 지금이라도 당장 이 자리에 뛰쳐나가서 직접 두 눈으로 보고 싶습니다.
진짜 이거는 말도 안
이 진동이
되는
느껴지십니까?
건가요? 네. 지금 저희 목소리가 잘 들리지 않으실
맞습니다.
수도 있는데
이곳 스튜디오도 진동이
네.
느껴질 정도로 어마어마한 누리호 1단의 화염이 하늘을 향해서 비행을 하고 있습니다.
네, 진동 때문에 목소리가 연결이 잘 안 좋다고 합니다. 양해 부탁드리고.
Well, they sound excited. So, good-looking vehicle, but yeah, maybe next time. Then on, let's see, also on Thursday, Thursday was the day. Also on Thursday, a SpaceX Starship 20 down in Boca Chica did a pair of static test fires. This was the first, I believe this was the first test firing of a Raptor vacuum optimized engine, or RVac. This footage is courtesy of Lab Padre. Check it out. What we're looking at is views from different angles because they have multiple cameras around the site. Now I did hear that they lost a few of the heat tiles, which has happened before and continues to be a challenge. No RUDs though, and hopefully they gathered all the data they needed, so congrats to SpaceX, and it's good to see things ramping up again down there in Boca Chica. They were pretty quiet for a while, and I'm not sure exactly why, but probably somebody over at Lab Padre or one of the other places where they monitor this stuff very closely has a better answer. But very cool. So soon-ish, we may be looking at an orbital Starship launch, which I believe is, you know what, let me find that tweet. Well, anyway, I'll just describe it for you. Elon Musk, of course, tweeted or retweeted a post by S. Padre, South Padre Island Twitter account, petitioning the FAA to authorize SpaceX's orbital launch of Starship. Now, I don't know how many thousands of emails the FAA got, or whether a charismatic and eccentric billionaire soliciting people to spam the FAA with requests is an effective way to go about achieving regulatory approval, but it is what it is, and hopefully they do get approved for that launch, but we shall see. It's the Wild West down there, so who knows what's going to happen. All right, what are we looking at? For the Thursday triple play, Russia, let's see, let me just play this 'cause no sound. All right, Russia redocked, so Russia had undocked the Progress module that was attached to the space station the night before, and then on Thursday they redocked it from the Poisk module to the new Nauka module to make way for an incoming Progress ship which will be arriving later this week. So here we see some views from that. They seem to be relocating a lot of craft to Nauka now that they have that on station. Then, early this morning, a Chinese Long March 3B launched Shijian 21 from Xichang Satellite Launch Center. Let's check that out. One of the more scenic launch centers with all the mountains around. Most launch sites are on coasts and or on, for example, the high steppes of Kazakhstan, which are quite featureless, but nonetheless pretty effective for launching from because they're far from humans. Then a short time later, actually it was while that was launching, we were in the midst of the stream for the live stream for Ariane space. An Ariane 5 rocket launched SES-17 and Syracuse 4A, which are communication satellites. It delivered them to a geosynchronous transfer orbit, or geostationary transfer orbit, and the satellites then will be responsible for circularizing their orbits at the geostationary altitude. One of those payloads was for the French military, the other was for SES. All right.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top, allumage moteur Vulcain. Allumage des deux EAP et décollage VA255, SE17 et Syracuse 4A.
Now, Ariane 5 is not a small vehicle, but that thing jumps off the pad. It's those two massive solid rocket boosters on the sides. SRBs provide a crazy amount of thrust. And, yeah, so Ariane 5, amazing looking rocket, and always a pleasure to see one launch. We were a little nervous because there was a long hold during the live stream. And of course, the next Ariane 5 launch is going to be, barring any further delays, is going to be the James Webb Space Telescope in presumably December, again, barring any further delays. And so if there had been an issue with this launch, then there would have been much sweating on all sides and perhaps an obituary for Stefan Israel, the boss of Ariane Space. But yeah, so successful launch though. Congratulations, Ariane Space. And let's take a look at the next week, or this week. All right, so we have stuff scattered all over the place here. All right, on Monday, October 25th at 2:10 a.m. Eastern, 0610 GMT, okay, wait, pause, stop. All right, there was one thing I forgot to mention, which was important, and that is, I don't know if I actually have a graphic for this, but let me go ahead and switch to full screen so that I can be awkward in full HD. That was a joke. There was an asteroid near miss. Let me get the information on it. Asteroid. Here it is. Asteroid 2021 TE13 flew past the Earth at 0.07 LD, which is lunar distances. Newly discovered asteroid designated 2021 TE13 flew past the Earth at a distance of 0.07 LD or 0.00018 AU, which corresponds to 26,927 kilometers or 16,732 miles from the center of our planet. So subtract 3262 divided by 2 miles from that to get from the surface of the planet. At 09:53 UTC on October 12th. So this is kind of old news, but we just discovered it. Okay, so October 14th. Okay, so this is actually kind of old news. So I don't know why it just came to my attention yesterday, but so it was on October 12th. 101st known asteroid to fly past the Earth within 1 lunar distance since the start of this year. And it was the 7th so far this month. It was the 31st closest asteroid flyby on record, sharing this place with 4 other asteroids. This particular hunk of rock belonged to the Apollo group of asteroids, first observed at Mount Lemmon Survey, Arizona, in October 2021, one day after it made its close approach to Earth. So we didn't see it until after it had passed. Object has an estimated diameter, it's quite small, estimated diameter between 3.7 and 8.3 meters, so between 12 and 27.2 feet. By comparison, the Chelyabinsk meteor, which exploded over Russia a few years ago, which you may remember, was, I believe, about 60 feet in diameter, so it was quite a bit bigger. This was a small asteroid, but it could have still caused a problem for someone if it had actually entered the atmosphere and exploded over a populated area. Again, Chelyabinsk was much bigger, and it also exploded quite high in the atmosphere. But this was, you know, cosmically like a hair's breadth away, but it was still, you know, 16,000 miles away, which is closer than our geostationary satellites. So pretty close, but just a little disconcerting that potentially damaging asteroids are getting past our, meager monitoring systems. And I mean, it's a small rock going really fast that we're not expecting, coming from an unknown direction, and it's a big-ass sky, as they say. So, but in any case, I did want to slip that in there. But moving on to the events of the next week, again on Monday, October 25th at 2:10 a.m. Eastern, 0610 GMT, a Chinese Kuaizhou 1A will launch Jilin 1 Gaofen 2F, the latest in series of Earth observation satellites. Gaofen 2C and 2E, aka Bilibili-sat, if you're familiar with the Chinese media site Bilibili, were both lost when their Kuaizhou 1A and Kuaizhou 11, respectively, rockets failed to reach orbit. So hopefully F is successful. No F's for F. Also on the 25th, between 10 and 11 p.m. Eastern, or 0200 to 0400 GMT on the 26th, a Japanese H-2A rocket will launch from Tanegashima Space Center with QZS-1R, a replacement for the QZS-1 satellite that was launched in 2010. It's part of the QZSS, or Quasi-Zenith Satellite System, also called Michibiki. It was designed to provide better GPS coverage in Japan, where so-called urban canyons limit the view of the sky, which we can see illustrated here. By orbiting satellites at a very high altitude, directly over Japan, they can get much better GPS coverage. The problem is that Japan is nowhere near the equator where geostationary satellites orbit. So what did they do? They came up with, along with the help from U.S. authorities, developed the Quasi-Zenith satellite system. Now, 3 of the 4, which we see illustrated here from 4 different perspectives, which is a little mind-bending, but 3 of the 4 QZSS satellites occupy what's called a quasi-zenith orbit. QZS-1 is colored here in cyan. That's the satellite that this QZS-1R will be replacing. QZ orbits are at a geosynchronous altitude, so they orbit once every 24 hours, just like geostationary satellites. But the orbit is inclined by 45 degrees from the equator. As a result, because they're not orbiting on the equator, Japan drifts away from the satellite every few hours. So by placing 3 satellites into QZ orbits and 1 satellite into a standard GEO orbit, they can get continuous coverage over Japan. Now, looking at these, orbits can be confusing. I'm actually having trouble wrapping my head around this, but it was developed by some very smart people, smarter than me, and rest assured the system works. Just like Russia's crazy Molniya orbits that are highly elongated and designed to provide coverage over Russia at high latitudes. Moving ahead, on Wednesday, October 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight GMT, a Russian Soyuz 2.1A launches the Progress 79P cargo spacecraft to the ISS. Live coverage starts 15 minutes earlier. Then 4 hours later, on Thursday, October 28th at midnight Eastern, 0400 GMT, an Astrorocket 3 will attempt to launch a non-deployable test payload for the U.S. Space Force and the Space Test Program into orbit from their launch site on Kodiak Island, Alaska. There might be live coverage like last time, so stay tuned. Remember last time they launched sideways. They literally hovered the rocket horizontally from the launch pad before it took off, and then they initiated the launch abort command, which shut down the engines, and the rocket splashed down in the Pacific. But hopefully this one is successful. Then on Saturday, let's see. Oh yeah, Progress 79P. Then on Saturday, October 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern, midnight GMT, we have 4 freaking rockets that are supposedly going to launch at the same time. I hope that is not the case, because that's a lot of live streams to manage all at once. But that's what the schedule says, and I didn't have time to double check TSRs, and a lot of times the TFRs, the temporary flight restrictions. And a lot of times the TFRs don't get posted until shortly before the actual event. But that's what the schedule says. So here's what they are. We have a SpaceX Falcon 9 launching with Starlink 30 from Cape Canaveral. Another SpaceX Falcon 9 launching another group of Starlink satellites, Starlink Group 2.2, or 2.2 from Vandenberg on the other side of the country. That's right, we might be looking at 2 simultaneous Starlink launches from opposite sides of the continent. A Japanese Epsilon rocket with the RAISE 2 mission that scrubbed a few weeks ago, and a Chinese Long March 2C with Yaogan 3202. At least that one definitely won't have a live stream. But we do have the potential for 3 concurrent live streams, with a 4th hot on their heels, which I will get to in just a moment. Presently, a short time later, beginning at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the 30th, or 0130 GMT on the 31st, begins continuous 29-hour marathon coverage of the launch through docking of Crew-3 on a SpaceX Crew Dragon, launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'll open with an intro and Q&A session, then NASA and SpaceX will take over the broadcast. I'll live stream the whole thing on my channel, of course, per usual. On board will be NASA astronauts Raja Chari and Thomas Marshburn, ESA astronaut Matthias Maurer, and NASA mission specialist Kayla Barron. The launch, so the coverage, my opening and Q&A begins at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Then launch is at, with the official coverage beginning a half hour later. Then launch is at 2:21 a.m. Eastern, 06:21 GMT on Sunday. Docking will be either very late Sunday or early Monday, like right around midnight. So next week I'll have to play SpaceWeek by ear, since it falls right in the middle of that Crew-3 coverage. But yeah, I don't know if I'll if they're in a whatever. I'm not sure how I'll do Space Week. I'll figure that out at a later time. But that is, let's see, do we have any other, nope, we don't have any other history events or moon phases or anything like that coming up. So that is it for the next week. I'd like to take a moment to thank and welcome our new channel member, Michael Kamradt. So thank you and welcome. Members. And that is it. Let's take a look and see if you have any questions. Oh dear. Mod commands. Okay. Geraldine Braun. Raw space. The upcoming week is blank. No launches anywhere. Where? Might as well find a weather balloon going up to space. That's because I slacked a bit and I didn't update the calendar until shortly before this broadcast. So if you refresh it, you should see a bunch of events. The ones that I just showed you, in fact. Crystallina bacteria. I thought there's a launch on the 31st of October. Yes, that is Crew-3 in the wee hours, 2:21 a.m. on the 31st, Eastern Time. Regarding the near-miss asteroid, how come we find out afterwards? Thought they had technology to track and trace. I am not personally familiar with all of the systems that we have for monitoring near-Earth asteroids and near-Earth objects, but it is a really big sky, and this was a really small object. It's only basically the size of a living room, essentially. If it had entered the atmosphere, it would have made a big boom. Probably wouldn't have caused any damage, and given the statistical distribution of humans and populated areas on the planet, the chances, even if it did enter the atmosphere and burst in the air like Chelyabinsk did, chances that it would do so over a populated area would be very slim indeed. 70% of 70% of our planet is water, and the vast majority of land area is not, in fact, populated. So, let's see. Saran asks, so if this Japan, for example, what kind of damage we talking here? Oh, okay. So let's take, Chelyabinsk is the easy example because it happened contemporarily. It happened just a few years ago, and it exploded pretty much directly over or close thereto a populated area, a sizable city of Chelyabinsk, Russia. And it was a much bigger asteroid, 60 feet as opposed to 27 feet. And when it exploded, if that explosion had been close to ground level, it would have been devastating, like thermonuclear weapon grade devastating. But it didn't. The asteroid heats up and explodes in the upper atmosphere, just like most meteors do. Small chunks did make it, or a small chunk did make it to the ground, but most of it was vaporized in the explosion in the upper atmosphere. Because it exploded at something like 20 miles up. if that had happened over Tokyo, you'd have shattered glass. You know, there were no fatalities as a result of Chelyabinsk, which, remember, was a much bigger explosion than this little asteroid could have caused. But there were lots of injuries, like a few thousand injuries from flying glass, because the shock wave, once it hit, shattered glass in the whole region. And, you know, people were injured by that. And I think there were some buildings that were structurally damaged from the shock wave, that, you know, walls collapsed and things like that. But, you know, so Tokyo or New York or wherever would have caused a big light show, maybe injured some people, but there probably wouldn't have been any fatalities. And if so, maybe, you know, a couple. Crystalline bacteria. Will they bump into other satellites that have been sent out? I believe this is also referring to the asteroid. So anytime an object flies through near Earth space, like within, you know, about 25,000 miles, because our geostationary satellites operate at 22,000 miles. Anytime any asteroid or foreign object, comet or whatever, passes through that region, there is a chance that it could run into something. But it's an infinitesimally, let me try that again, it's an infinitesimally small chance, because the region of space represented by, you know, 22,000 miles above the Earth's surface is gigantic. And these objects are quite small, you know, 20 feet, 60 feet, whatever. So, I mean, even an object hitting the Earth, and the Earth is big and fat and has a gravitational pull, even the chances of any given space object hitting the Earth are pretty slim. So the chances that an actual satellite would be taken out by one of these passers-by is there. I mean, someone wins the lottery, right? But it ain't going to be you. So, and we don't have as many satellites in the sky as there are people who play the lottery, or tickets that are sold for the lottery. So, Arnaknud says, 3 days ago there was another Kodiak Island rocket failure, a U.S. hypersonic missile test. That's interesting. I didn't hear about that one. So apparently it's not just Astra Space that launches from Kodiak Island. Scott Dufferland says, do you think Astra will get her done? I think so. I try to remain hopeful about these sorts of things. I never wish for ill fortune. You know, I try to be pragmatic, but I mean, they did, like, I must say their gimbaling system on the rocket, the Astra Rocket 3 last time, was incredible. Like, it kept the rocket stable and pointed upwards, and was able to actually start taking off from a very bizarre start, like, you know, power sliding across the launch pad. We've never seen anything like it. But I mean, I found that to be just mind-blowingly impressive, the way it did that, because it was not designed to launch in that fashion, but it managed to start ascending and to at least make an attempt, regardless. But yeah, I think they'll get it done. Crystallina bacteria. Did you hear about the rapid blast signals they received at an observatory? Over 1,000 in 47 days. I presume these are radio signals from deep space. I did not hear about that. I'd be interested to learn more. If you want to go ahead and if I'm not Crystallina bacteria, I'm not sure if you're in our Discord. If you want to go ahead and join our Discord server and post a link to an article talking about those signals, preferably in the Space News channel, then that would be great, because I'd like to learn more about it. I'm always interested in signals from space. Now, who knows? Maybe it's a new pulsar or something. But K-Bear, if that asteroid was coming at us today, would we detect it? Well, considering it came at us on 12 days ago and we did not see it, chances are we wouldn't see it. you know, we have limited means by which to detect very small objects at a distance of, you know, millions of miles, or, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles if it's very close. I mean, we can detect it optically or with radar, by bouncing radar off of it, but you know, I don't actually know if there are any radar asteroid detection systems that are, you know, blasting the whole sky with radar signals to see if they get a bounce back. I'm not sure. But optically, I mean, you have the problem of very small objects have too small an optical resolution to, like, you just can't discern the objects if you're scanning like the whole sky. But we're working on it. We're developing a variety of systems that'll hopefully do a better job of giving us early warning against such things. Now, if this thing had been a monster, I mean, if it had been like a major asteroid that was headed our way, we would have seen it. I mean, we would have, very probably seen it, months or even years ahead of time, because we'd be like, oh, hey, what's that? Oh gosh, it's headed straight for us, and we would have taken whatever precautions were necessary. But crystalline bacteria. When is Megan's crew coming back to Earth from ISS? Megan's crew. Megan's crew? What are the names of the astronauts currently on ISS? Let me look it up real quick. Expedition. So Wikipedia has a great page on ISS expeditions. Let me show you. Just search for ISS expeditions, and probably the top result will be this Wikipedia page where they list all the ISS expeditions, who was on them, when they launched, when they landed, all the details. It's a very rich page full of information. And okay, so Megan MacArthur will be, let's see, expeditions, current expedition. Megan MacArthur planned landing on SpaceX Crew-3, 8 November. So we're looking at about a week and 2 days. So I'll be covering that in next week's Space Week. We'll have a Crew-3 launch, followed by a Crew-2 landing shortly thereafter. So that's pretty cool. But my little brain can only handle like 1 week ahead, so all right. Jimbo Thunderhawk, aka the Devil Dog Man. Okay, let's see. Starflight with Bennu. Starflight with Bennu. Who will win? Well, I mean, if you're referring to my cat, he's going to win regardless. So I don't care. I don't care if he's going up against Elon Musk or Big Daddy Bezos or whatever. My cat's going to win. If you're referring to the asteroid, then we have departed Bennu and we're not going back there. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Vix. P.S. I only got here thanks to a link posted by Ahmad on Lab Padre's cams. It's great that you guys both share each other's stuff. Yes, I love that Lab Padre and I cross promote, as it were. So here, let me link them in the chat. Yeah, so Lab Padre is a channel that started out very, very differently, just focusing on the South Padre Island region of Texas, but morphed into one of the prime sources for live camera views of the Boca Chica SpaceX facility where they're developing Starship, and it's quite the turn of fortune for the folks down there. But yeah, go visit Lab Padres channel anytime to see what's going on in Boca Chica. Elmo Jones Music Orpheum, cool name. Any thoughts on the asteroid strike on Jupiter this week that was caught by amateurs? I have a vague recollection of someone mentioning a Jupiter strike. I also saw a clearly CGI image of like Jupiter getting absolutely clobbered by a gigantic impact. But yeah, I don't actually have any details on that. But thanks for bringing it to my attention. Again, if you want to, I'll put the link for Discord in the chat. If you want to go ahead and post a link to some information on that in the Space News channel of my Discord, that would be great, because I'm pretty busy with work and kids and house and Bennu the cat. So I don't catch all these little details. That's why I need things like this, heads ups from viewers and chatters. All right. Anything else? Oh, Jimbo Thunderhawk plugging my merch. Thank you. That's interesting. I guess my merch command is only available to me. I'll have to open that up so that others can. I didn't want to seem too commercial, so I think I restricted the merch command to just me. But I can open it up so that other people can post it if they have a desire to do so. But in any case, yeah, I'm currently wearing a Bennu T-shirt. It's got Bennu on the front, and I think it's got Raw Space logo on the back. Unfortunately, the merch integration, the Teespring, or Spring as they're now called, merch integration with YouTube is kind of flaky. They don't actually list all of my products. Like, for example, my Yin Yang Planets logo merch. It's on Spring. You can buy those items from Spring, but they don't show up here on YouTube for some reason. I've got to reach out to Teespring support and figure out why that's happening. Additionally, so this is the Bennu with Raw Space logo on the back variant, but the Bennu only merch that just features the picture of Bennu, for some reason, even though it's a picture of my cat that I took with my own phone, for some reason they denied or shut down that product line for suspicion of copyright violation or something. I have no idea why, because it's my freaking cat. I don't know, but so they're a little flaky, but I don't know, because the merch integration is so weird. I might change my primary merch partner, because I'm not very I'm satisfied with the products. Like, the quality of stuff that you get from Teespring is very good. It's durable, it's high quality. I buy the stuff myself, obviously, but the products being shut down and integration with YouTube being so inconsistent is unfortunate. Saren asks, what's the inspiration behind the cat's name? So, a little earlier he was sleeping behind me, but as soon as I tried to put the cat bed there on the chair, he skedaddled. But Bennu is named after Bennu, the asteroid. A few months back, NASA's OSIRIS-REx probe gathered a sample from asteroid Bennu, a rock sample from the asteroid, and that was happening it was actually about a year ago. It was just about exactly a year ago. It was in October 2020, and that's when we adopted Bennu, my cat. He was a rescue. He had been abandoned, like in the forest behind the pet shop, the pet store, And so I named him after the asteroid. And he's a very animated cat. He's rambunctious and attacks our ankles all the time as we're going up the stairs. He's funny. All right, so I think that'll wrap it up for this week. I managed to get it done despite a late start, but thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Hope to see you in the next live stream, and until then, keep it raw and take care.